and also participation in the labor market is lower in rural areas than urban areas. And we can see also some important information regarding informal labor, because of course having an income is important, but then when we have, as we say, formal activities, we also have normally coverage of social protection, no? But there is a high level of informal economy in Senegal, and as we can see, if we look at women, 94% of women entrepreneurs operates in the informal sector versus the 86% of men. So as you can see, the informal labor is high, but we can see there are more women, more proportion of women who are in the informal sector than when we look at men. Normally, informal labor for women is mainly, as you can see there, in the catering sector, trade, and food processing. And also, it is very important when we talk about economic rights, also the access to resources, no? And it's very interesting. You will see with Alachi how legally, formally, there is equality and there are many rights recognized to women, but then we have social practices, social norms, which make that many times the reality is quite different, and there's no a real equality. So, for example, in Kolda region, 96% of land is in the hands of men. So women have the right to 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 have a land, but what happens? Why no only 4% sorry 4% of the land in the Kolda region is in the hand of women, no? Okay, so just some figures. Now I'm going to show you, well, a bit our work, which I think maybe is also interesting for you, know, what we do to try to to solve this situation or to contribute to solutions. You can continue, Silvia. So as I told you, we work with FODE mainly. It's the Forum for sorry, I'm going to say it in French. Forum pour un développement durable et endogène. And we work trying to promote participation of communities, try to secure food security, the sustainable use of natural resources, to promote the taking care of the environment and use environmentally friendly techniques, to build resilience in a place which is very much affected by climate change and other challenges regarding the environment. And when we work through all that, along all our history there, of course we've come to the conclusion that working with women and empowering women is essential. So that's also a key part of our work, which is included in all our projects. And more specifically, we work also with the economic empowerment of women, trying to enhance activities that make them not only have a living and food security for themselves and their families, but also to have an earning and to have tools to participate in social life, in public life, in economic life, and also to have access to land. We work mainly with community gardens so that they can access to those gardens using, I don't know how it's said in English, but using like a cession of land by the local authorities. So I'm going to show you some pictures. Well, you have there some women in the rural areas. These are women who just finished the work in the afternoon, and they're going back home on foot, as and as you can see. Then you can see the image of one of the community gardens with different parcels. Normally, each women cultivates a parcel, a plot, sorry, even if they have a group. Normally, they're constituted as a group, as an economic group, and they have their own functions within it. There is the one in charge of this, the one in charge of that, and all that. You can continue, Silvia. We also promote agroecologic techniques. So as you can see, for example, these are the photovoltaic panels to extract the water. So of course, we try to make also the work a bit less hard for women, and carrying water is very hard, but we do it always using solar energy. Apart from that, of course, we work with them in organic techniques to avoid plagues, to feed the soil and all that. You can see the women working there, cleaning the fields, no, after the rain, and the soil is full of herbs that they have to take off. And then you can see there, for example, the results of one of the agricultural campaigns. What else we have there? Yeah, here, for example, is the result of the campaign in rainy season. We also try to promote, because there's a lot of division of different activities throughout the year. So we try to promote that they cultivate in the gardens all through the year. So this, you can see the type of products that we have during the rainy season. Here you can see a center we've built, which is related to another local association that we've support to be constituted. And in this center, it's like an experimentation and transformation center. So we are passing from only agricultural and market activities, because after cultivating, we are also promoting the selling the products, but more and more we are also working in other ways of creating, generating income for women. In this case, it's through the transformation. 50 minutes, sorry, 1 minute more for the
Yes.
transformation of fresh products or cereals, honey, bees, and all that. Here, I love this picture because, of course, women are those who have the voice, no? And what we try to promote in all our activities is also to give them a voice, to give them the tools to speak out loud, and and to participate in different public activities. Um, and well, we have a last picture, which is important now. This comes from a new activity we're starting with the culture of cultivation of rice. And rice is very important now with the COVID climate, because rice is a very important part of Senegalese diet. Is something that we eat a lot, but unfortunately is something that we mostly import from other countries. And for example, now with the COVID and the closing of frontiers, of borders, and all that, it's become even more visible. No, the need to really enhance the inside production of rice by Senegalese communities. So we are also working on that. And well, I will stop here to leave the place to Alaji. Thank you very much. And we discuss
Thank you very much,
later.
Blanca. So I'm going to introduce to you our next speaker. So we have with us this afternoon Alaji Balde. Alaji is the monitoring and evaluation manager of FODE, and he also has an extensive background in economic analysis and humanitarian leadership. And with regard to women's rights, he's the coordinator of the component against female genital mutilation as part of a project to improve the health of women and adolescents in the south of Senegal. Alaji is going to offer us a more legal perspective on this topic, and we're really looking forward to hear you. So, Alaji, you have the floor.
Thank you, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today to participate on this webinar. As you said, I'm going to present. I'm going to ask my presentation in 5 to 4 points. The first one is the introduction about the women's economic rights in Senegal, and the presentation will focus on the south area in Senegal, the Ziguinchor, Kolda, and Sédhiou region. And also I will talk about the history of human rights, especially in Africa. Also, I will talk about the convention by Senegal ratified on the human rights at the African and the international level. I will finish by talking about the current state of the respect for women's economic rights. It is a more important point. It will be accessed in the south region of Senegal, the three regions that I talked about early. And for the first point, you can continue. For the first point, I'm going to tell you about the population of Senegal. We have 50%, 52% of women constitute this population of Senegal, and we can see that in this population, in the children, we can see that we have many stereotypes between girls and boys in their infancy that we perpetuate, we mold it in the community level. Donc, in women's enjoyment also, we can see that the rights in Senegal, rights in general, and especially the economic right varies among the context. Donc, the context in Senegal can vary from this one region to another one, and also the progress is being made. We can see the situation is achieving women's economic rights remain in constant in Senegal, and particularly in the south of the country. So we are seeing some progress in the situation. For the second point, the history of human rights, we will talk about the Monday oaths in Africa in 1222. The community have made some declaration about human rights, and especially in the Mande is constituted by the Mali Empire in 1222. The children of Sanene, Sanene is one queen of this kingdom, and her son declared that all human life is a life. It is true that a life appears to existence before another life, donc different life, but life is no more old, more respected than another life, just as one life is no better than another life. So you can see in this constitution, in this charter, people born equal. Equal. There is no difference between women and men. And Sanen, the queen, said that also, and his son are not of any country or race. They are the embodiment of human virtue carried to the highest degree of expression. Also, the Onasha Charter is a Kurukan Fuga charter in the Mali Empire. Donc, in this charter also, you can see in the statement number 5 that everyone has the right to life and the preservation of their physical integrity. Also, life is sacred. The dignity of the human person is no less sacred. The charter goes so far as say statement 41, you can kill your enemy, but you have no right to humiliate him. In Statma 16 is very explicit about the place of women in government. It's not a new things in Africa. Early, we can see women in their daily activity must be associated with all governments in the society. Donc, in Mandeg, women had powerful secret association. Donc, they have some place to discuss about their economic rights, their situation, about the going well of the community. Donc, there was gender equality in this community early in around 1222. As we know, Senegal have ratified a number of rights on women's rights at the international level. We can see Senegal have ratified some declarations. The first one is a Declaration of the Human and Citizen Rights in 1789, and also the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We can see also the International Pact of Economic and Social Rights, and also the 1979 Convention against elimination of all discrimination against women, because we are seeing now many practices in our community like FGM, like early marriage about the girls, and also about the rape, excision is very current in our society. But Senegal have ratified the convention against these practices. And also in 1989 International Convention on the Right of Children. We can see Senegal have ratified all these convention at the international level. In African level, we can see also many of charters that the Senegalese authority have ratified. We can see the most important about the women's situation is a protocol of Maputo. It's a right who come to complement the African Charter to promote the fundamental rights of women in African and to ensure the protection of these rights. Donc, this protocol was ratified by a group of women leaders to complement the African Charter of Human Rights Peoples, and that Senegal adopted in 21st October 1986. We also have the African Charter of Human and People Rights. It emphasizes the protection of the human person and respect for the family, traditional values recognized by the community. It looks at the protection of vulnerability groups like children, women, and the people living with handicap. At the national level, we have the first instrument is the Constitution of Senegal, voted at 22 January 2001. In this constitution, as said Blanca early, the woman has many of rights in this constitution. Like you can see in Article 19, the wife has the right to have her own wealth, and as a husband, she has the right to personally manage her assets. Think is we have very challenge about this article in our situation, our context, because we in the constitution we consider that women have the right to access to the economic right, but in reality, we are going to see this in the next presentation. The situation is another one. Actually, we can, in the situation of Senegal, we can see many women in the office, in the field, factory, in the market, in the businesses, and the proportion of women in political and decision-making bodies in Senegal is even lower. Even though Senegal voted the parity is in the constitution, but in the reality, we cannot find many women in the sphere of decision in the important ministry. Although law on parity has been passed since 2020, gender equality remains in every struggle. In Senegal, the international at the international level has ratified most of the international legal instruments. We can see despite these advances, difficulties persist, notably in the representation of women in the media art culture. Donc, in the community, we are still continue to take women in the second role in the community, in the household. The women have no more decision to take in the household activity, household decision. It's only men who takes decision in this situation. But in the in the particular region of Kolda, they have made some study about the situation of economic rights of women in the region. We can see that 72% of women don't have experienced economic violences. Now, this economic violences is about the preventing to access of resources. Even women have his own resources. The decision to spend or to use these resources involved to the man. Donc, women have no decision to make about her own resources. We can see also about preventing the development of economic activity. Even women want to practice one activity, one economic activity, sometimes they face to a challenge to accept to this activity because of a stereotype of gender who say that women should practice the activity or should not practice this activity. We can see also in the the limitation of for women to access the factor of and means of production. We can see in our community, women is very active in the production level in the production level, but the factor of production and mean is very limited. In some cases, even if access is guaranteed, the control is of this factor and mean of production is non-existent. Women can access to the factor, but sometimes to control this factor is not is very limited. Also, we can see another study show that the perception of the community about the access of women in the land, the perception of the community, but also the perception of the men. Donc, in this study, we can see that women have only 2% of the land that they belong to them. Her activity is in the land that is involved to the men. They cannot control this land that they are using. The same study showed that very unfavorable perception of access and control of land by women. We can see the men at the men level, 87% of men have an unfavorable perception about access and control of land by women. And in the community, we are also almost the same rates. 83% of community members have an unfavorable perception about women access and control to the land. Donc, today there is unanimity that we must work towards the full realization of economic rights of women in global South countries. We can see in these three regions, the women rights is not respected, especially in the community like the Halpular and Jola, where we can find most of women cannot access to the land. And also, if a woman is married in one household, it is very difficult for that woman to access to the land, because we say that sometimes if the marriage is break down, the woman should go back in her parents' home, but that's why he cannot get totally the property of the land. Okay, and as you can see that many authorities say that it's very important to allow to facilitate the access of women rights for the woman, because it can make a better economic growth. Changing the situation of women is not only an ethical imperative, it is also necessary for economic development. Donc we can see in these communities, the women have a big part in the economy, the household revenue, and produce a lot of in the also as for the household food security. Women have a part important, because if you take the production level, for example, rice is a horticulture product is provided by the woman, and it is used especially for the household consumption. And then it is necessary to facilitate women to access on the economic right. Thank you. It is the last slide for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elaji. That was really interesting. You have taken us through all the legal background in Senegal of how women's rights have evolved, and also how there is a struggle to match the law with the social perceptions and the place that women have in Senegal society and economy today. So you have given us a lot of information and things to think about. Next, we're going to hear from Deborah Luque. Deborah was a volunteer with Alianza Action Aid Senegal in Kolda, and she is also now volunteering with another organization in Lebanon. She has a background in international relations and diplomatic affairs, and she was the communications officer while she was providing her support to Alianza, and also Alianza's partners such as FORE. So Deborah, whenever you are ready, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Silvia. And thank you, Alianza, for having invited me to talk about my experience in Senegal. So I'll try to talk about the most important elements that for me were actually crucial for joining this program, the U8 volunteer program, and then I will talk a little bit more about my role as a communication officer in Kolda during the period of my deployment, which was last year, before and also during COVID, and then like also a little bit about my life outside work, the challenges that I had to face, and all the lessons learned and that I acquired throughout the months of deployment, and finally also to give you a little bit of motivation for the people that are that are interested in joining and curious to join this program. To sort of like give them some reasons why they should participate to the U8 volunteer program. So regarding my personal reasons, I knew that I wanted to start my career in the international cooperation, in the cooperation field, but at the same time I didn't have a really a good experience on the field. So either in Africa, nor in the Middle East, nor in Latin America, my experience, professional experience, was mostly in Europe. And which gave me the opportunity to develop my communication skills. But at the same time, I knew that it wasn't enough. If I wanted to really start working in the sectors, I knew that I needed to have an added value. And this added value was actually experience on the field. So like a year and a half ago, I came across with the U8 volunteer program. And I noticed that it was, compared to all the programs out there, it was really well structured. It was really like a serious program, while the organizations that are participants to this program, so the European organization as well as the local organization on the ground, they are they have to go really like a process of scrutiny, and they have to respect certain standards in order to become member of the program. So it wasn't just me going naively to actually volunteer to an organization that I didn't know anything about. So this was my main reason, for one of the main reasons why I joined the volunteer program. And I knew since the beginning that it was actually quite interesting, also the fact that they would prepare you beforehand leaving for your country of deployment. So you have to go a really intense 2 weeks training, and then after that you are going to be picked up and then selected by the organization. And after that, also you would have to do an additional shorter this time period of training with the organization itself before being deployed on the country. And then at the same time, like apart from this professional reason, there was also my interest of putting my skills, the communication skills, at the service of the organizations, the different NGOs that were really on the ground, and they were implementing projects either aimed at development or aimed at the humanitarian sector, or which is like the emergency. So these are regarding my reasons and my main expectations at the beginning, like when I decided first to join the program, and then they kind of evolved along the way. But regarding my role as a communication officer, when I arrived in Kolda, I was the volunteer in charge of communication, so which meant basically external communication, so development of a communication strategy, of collecting all the materials, audio and visual, that then I would have to send back to Madrid, so to the headquarters, where like all the informations and the results and the outcomes of the projects that at the time Alianza was involved in with the partner FODE were actually implementing on the ground. So I had to create. I had to write articles for the websites, take care of the social media aspects. So creating a social media calendar where I would regularly have to update all the information regarding Senegal. And this was actually regarding like in comparison with all the others, I would say volunteers that were also at the time with me during the deployment in Senegal. I was really lucky because I really had the opportunity to go quite often on the field, because actually, of course, in order to talk about and to communicate about the projects, you really have to have the materials. So you have to show through videos and photos was actually being done in the country. So quite often, every other week, I would have to go to the field, to the community gardens, to interview the women beneficiaries, and as well as also to document how the projects were going along, because at the time they were also Alianza was involved in the building of a bridge that was actually pretty interesting also to document all the stages till the very final inauguration of the bridge itself. And then I also had the opportunity to take care of some events, because of course, as part of the UAV volunteer program, I was in charge of organizing 2 events in order to promote the program within and at Europe. So through the social media, and with the other volunteers, we decided to organize 2 events. And these 2 events allowed us actually to really have a feeling of how dynamic was the civic society and the grassroots organization in Kolda. We had the opportunity to network with the youth organization, like the so-called Jeunes Filles, Club des Jeunes Filles of Kolda, which is like the the girls club, basically women's and girls club. And with them, we were able to organize an awareness raising sessions on gender-based violence. And it was a really interesting exchange of ideas and discussions with all the girls and then the young women that participated, because at the end of the day we ended up learning a lot from them, and about also the situation itself of female empowerment in Kolda, starting from a very young age, I would say. And then there was also the activity of the cleanup day, which we organized with in coordination and cooperation with the municipality itself, but at the same time we had also the local support of 2 local organizations that were really involved in the environmental issues, because in Kolda there was a really big problem of managing the waste management, which was kind of lacking. So basically the people, they were throwing the garbage on the riverbanks, and in coordination with 2 of these organizations, we were really able to mobilize a good number of people and to clean up part of the riverbank. And I think, Silvia, if you can move a bit forward, I also put some photos about how the situation was before the activity and after that. So this was, for example, the moment of the inauguration of the bridge. So yes. So basically, this was how before. Sorry. So this was the after, but I think I also put the before or not. I'm not sure. The picture before. Yes, this was.
It should be showing now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this was the situation before our activity, and then yes, right after, you can see that there's a huge difference. And then our idea was not just to limit this activity to just this one-day event, but also to start this kind of collaboration with the organization in order to do awareness raising sessions. But of course, COVID happened, so we couldn't really go beyond that.
And you have 3 more minutes, okay?
Yes, sure. So regarding life outside work, so basically the work is just a tip of the iceberg of the whole process, because of course you end up spending a lot of time in the new environment, and you really end up knowing a lot about the country itself. So I really had the opportunity to hang out and meet a lot of local people, and I was lucky enough to get along quite well with the other volunteers. So we basically became a small family, where we ended up discussing a lot and getting to know also a lot of other people. And it was really interesting because one of our volunteers was really passionate about music. So she actually she started to know some local artists in Kolda. So we ended up going with one of these singer to the recording studio, where we would record the song that he ended up writing, also based on what the other volunteer actually had an idea in mind. So it was really also cool to get to see that. And then, yes, I mean, this is, for example, the Kolda, the market, which was basically bustling every single day with people selling. And this is the view from our apartment. And we basically had a really nice view of the whole Kolda, which was pretty cool. And it allowed us also to enjoy a lot the African sunsets, which I ended up falling in love with. And yes, moving forward, I think that there are some other, the photos of the typical pattern, the Senegalese pattern and African pattern that you could end up buying at the market and then creating whichever clothes you wanted to create. And then regarding the challenges, because it wasn't just positive things regarding the program, but of course there would be a lot of challenges along the way. And it was really like an experience that tested my resilience, especially because I ended up arriving really at the end of the heat, like the rainy season, so which meant a really high temperature. And so they test like the first months were actually pretty tough for me because I wasn't really used at all to this kind of temperatures. And yes, basically the fan ended up becoming my best friend. And of course there's the COVID that happened. So like after my 5th month, I was repatriated and I spent the rest of my deployment, which then I sort of like extended working remotely, and which is actually one of the lessons learned, like the ability to actually be able to work from home remotely. I mean, in my case, it was in the comfortable like room studio of my house, where basically I was repatriated, but it at the same time gave me the opportunity to continue working and like giving my help in supporting the Alianza's work. Because even though I didn't have the opportunity anymore to go on the field, but I still had some article that I was supposed to write and some other projects that I was involved into. So my work didn't stop just because I left Senegal. And yes, another like lessons learned were like the fact that I learned about. I mean, we've heard Aladji talking about that the road to empowerment, female Senegalese empowerment, is really still long, but through the experiences with the female youth club, and then also by interviewing one of the activists, female activists for female empowerment, I also had the opportunity to witness that there was actually like a battle that was ongoing, and that was slowly actually making progress towards female empowerment. And yes, finally, why should you become a volunteer? So as I said, my reasons at the beginning were simply because I wanted I wanted to really get an experience, a professional experience on the ground, and to be of service of the organizations. But at the same time, this was just the result, like a tiny impact that they had on the experience itself, because it was so enriching, like being able to really get outside of your comfort zone, especially like living in a rural area, because I wasn't even in Dakar, I was in the deep Casamance. So like getting to adapt to a completely different lifestyle, meeting different people, also being surrounded by other volunteers that were not necessarily the kind of people that would hang out with. So you have the opportunity to really get to know other people with different experiences, from which you can really learn a lot and grow together and share your frustrations when needed. So, and finally, it was, of course, a shift of perspective, because most of the time we get to experience these countries via the media, and they always end up there in the media just because something bad happens. But the ability to go there and see for yourself what's really the reality on the ground, I'd say it's quite mind-opening, and it's really something that I would really recommend doing. So that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deborah, for sharing your experience with us. So we have heard from our three speakers. We have heard different information. Blanca explained what is broadly the situation in the region in Kolda, the region known popularly as Casamance. And we saw pictures of how women grow the land, Alati has taken us through a bit of the history of Senegal and explained very well what is the current situation of women, both economically and socially. And with Deborah, we delved into the day-to-day of how it is like to work in development projects, and also how she lived the experience as a volunteer and the grant. So the floor is now open for questions. You can either, if you are brave and bold, you can just open your microphones and speak, or if you prefer to type the questions in our chat, and I'm going to read them out loud. And you can ask questions to any of our three speakers, to Alati, Deborah, or Blanca. And if you need some time to think about your questions, I wanted to ask to any of you, really, because also Deborah, you were there when the COVID struck and changed so greatly our lives. What do you think has been the response of women facing the COVID? And because we see in Senegal, you have presented women as very strong and leading the households and taking a very important role in the community, not only as care providers, but also they have a very important role in food security. So could you tell us a bit what the last year looked like for women in Kolda?
Sorry, Sylvia, it was addressed to Alati or to me?
To both of you, really.
Okay. Well, I think maybe Alati can tell us better from my side, as well. In fact, he was also following the situation, doing the monitoring after the breakout. But well, what we've seen is that women, on the one hand, they've been very affected, but on the other hand, they've also contributed a lot to overcome a bit the situation. No? So on the one hand, from the side of the affection, let's say, or the negative impact, as we said, we work with women which cultivate their products, and they try to sell them. So with the COVID crisis, there was a total lockdown of markets. They were closed, so they couldn't sell their products. They perished. So it was a very important loss in economic terms, and also many families had to endebt themselves, and they're still trying to pay those debts. But at the same time, that is women, as they are the carers in society. They were always there, and also they try to keep on their activities. So, for example, the women in the communities we work with were always we have let's say focal points. They were always trying to respond our questions, to monitoring the situation. They kept working in the different networks as much as possible, of course, but they tried not to drastically cut down their activities, but trying to continue. No, but I will leave the place to Alati also.
Thank you, Blanca. As you said, the COVID have a lot of impact, but the situation of the woman was very, very, very impacted by this COVID. If you see in Kolda, the main decision that the government have taken is the close of the markets, and as you know, here the women are the main actors of the economic situation in Kolda. If you see, every day you can see women going to the market to sell their product and buy the food for the household alimentation. But if the government closed the market, it was very, very difficult for the women to work because the sector is very, very informal, and if you cannot buy your product day to day, you cannot satisfy the need of the household. And we can see that also the stop of the transportation ways between region, between weekly markets was very hard for the woman, and the commerce side was very impacted. But in the response of the COVID, the women have played a main role, because the main attitude we taken is about the hygiene measures, and women are very important in this side, because in the household, in the homes, there was very active to provide soap, water, to clean hands, and to inside children and girls to follow the just barrier. I don't know what can I say this, but they was very active in the prevention of the COVID, the activity of sensibilization. They were very important. Then have played the role in this situation. But the impact was very hard for the woman. Even the woman he was working in the markets, and also you can see in our perimeters, our garden, the work was broken. They cannot work. If they product, they can found the market where to sell the production, and we have lost a lot of quantity of product in the production units, and it was very difficult for the woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaji and Blanca. So we hope that, well, sometimes we say that a hard situation is an opportunity to turn things around. So seeing how Senegalese women are showing how strong and autonomous they are, hopefully this will help to realize how important they are, and to take the place they deserve in the Senegalese society. So we are getting to the end of our webinar today. I would like to thank very much our three speakers for being with us today and offering such interesting information. And also all of you have respected the times very well. I didn't have to remind any of you of the hour. We hope this was interesting for you. You can find out more about Alianza and FODE's work on the internet and following social media. And as for our summer school, we're going to be back next week, next Tuesday, also at 5, with a new webinar. This time the organizers are Movimiento por la Paz, and they're going to be discussing communications in a humanitarian setting. So thank you to all of our participants for staying with us today, and we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.